Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the AntePoster.com on YouTube. The first thing you're going to notice is the rather unsatisfactory nature of the presentation, because my partner on the AntePoster.com, James Robson, is alternatively engaged abroad and unable to join for Wi-Fi reasons. I think he's in some remote corner of Uzbekistan or something like that. So this recording, which has been done on Saturday morning, is for the Prix Diane, the French Oaks, to be run tomorrow at Chantilly Racecourse, just north of Paris. And I'm afraid, it's going to be something of a monologue from me. We're going to do a horse-by-horse analysis in stall order. And so just a brief word, this is the equivalent of the Epsom Oaks, the French equivalent. It's a furlong and a half shorter, run around 180-degree right-hand bend in front of the glorious Chateau de Chantilly and the Grande Écurie, the famous stables built 300 years ago for the most pampered horses on earth. I can recommend anyone go to Chantilly. It's really only half an hour from Paris, and it's a wonderful experience. So do include that on your bucket list before you move on to another celestial orbit. So let's get down into the detail of the horses. I'll be referring to my notes and gazing off to the left, so bear with me on that. Only 12 horses in this year's Prix Diane, which is significant insofar as the French Derby, won by Camille Pizarro a couple of weeks back, had 18 horses. And to be wide there was really very bad news indeed. In a big field, there's quite a bias, and in fact, that favoured the when you look at the finishing positions, it very much favoured the inside stalls. With this race tomorrow at 3:05 English time, 4:05 local, there are only 12, so it's still not great to be wide, but it's not as bad because there's not as large a field to be wide of. But it's something to bear in mind, not least because many of the favoured horses in the betting are drawn to the outside. So when we'll go through these horse by horse, and what I'm going to do today, just for a bit of fun, is allot them a very personalised view based on my analysis, stars, 1 to 5 stars in terms of betting appeal, not just pure stars based on the horse's quality, but stars based on the appeal of each horse at the price currently in the market, which I will give, and then you can get an idea of the ones I feel are underpriced and the ones I feel are overpriced based on that system. So okay, let's get into it. We're starting from the rail, stall 1, arguably the most favourably drawn, you could say, particularly in a smaller rather than a larger field. Shortest way round, won't be track wide. We have Gizora in the silks of the late Aga Khan, green with the red epaulets. This one is trained by Francis-Henri Graffard, who is at the moment France's leading trainer, has been for a couple of years now, and ridden by Christophe Soumillon. So you've got serious connections one way or another. 9 to 1. Still just others, it's cutting it a bit, 8 to 1, 7 to 1 around. I think 365 and 9 to 1. This is a 4-star rating for me. I think Gazora is underestimated in the market. I think she should be shorter in the betting. I think she will be shorter in the betting. Why? Just brief look at her career. She ran 4 times as a juvenile, as a 2-year-old. She won a Group 3, and she was a neck second to a horse called Lazy Griff, which might not have been on your radar 10 days ago, but I'm sure it was on your radar after the Derby because he finished second in the Derby. So just a bit of notable 2-year-old form there. Put away for the winter. Then she comes back on reappearance and quite dull. She's beaten 4 lengths by Mandanaba, second favourite for this race, and a horse called Flaming Stone in second. Yeah, but beaten a good 4 lengths, so that wasn't a great run. But then she steps up to the Group 2 Prix Saint-Hilaire, which is run on the same day as the French 2000 guineas, over 10 furlongs. And she was impressive. She beat a 1-2 favourite and reversed form with that horse Flaming Stone, who was second to Mandanaba in the previous race when Gizora was several lengths back, but reversed that to the tune of 6 lengths net, as it were. So that was a big step forward, and that was on French ground, bon souple, which means good to soft, but absolutely doesn't mean what the English would understand as good to soft. It's good ground, possibly on the faster side of good. So with that step forward, I think she's a player here. She's well drawn, and yeah, I believe she is underestimated in the market at 9-1. Stall 2 next door is a horse called Dores Deja, trained by favourite-sceptic, ridden by Christian Jamuro, the Silks of Al Shabab. 20-1, this one, I think, deserves to be every bit of 20-1. Ran 4 times as a 2-year-old, didn't do anything of note other than finish 5th to Gazora, beaten many lengths in a Group 3. It's come back this season, won its maiden at Compiègne, just to the north of Paris, a smaller Parisian area racetrack, and then has been to Dusseldorf, where it's won a listed race and come second in a Group 2. However, when a horse is sent over to Germany to get there listed and sort of lower group wins, it is usually a notch down from staying at home and doing it. So I wouldn't read a huge amount into that, even though she's second in a Group 2 last time out. I don't think she's good enough. The only thing potentially in her favour is this will be the first time, stepping up to 10.5 furlongs. Previously, she's been over a mile. On the breeding, Zarak Tiafilio, that's possible. So would need to improve hugely for the step up in trip, and I think she's outclassed here, but not absolutely impossible. Stall 3 is Merrily, second string for Ballydoyle, Aidan O'Brien, 28-1, ridden by one Wayne Lorden, fresh off his win on Lambourne in the Derby. I'm not absolutely sure what this one is doing here, if it's not as a pacemaker. She did have one good win as a 2-year-old on a sort of indifferent juvenile campaign by Ballydoyle standards. She came from nowhere at a huge price to win the Group 3 oh so sharp at Newmarket at the back end of last season at 25-1. It was pretty much the only thing she did as a juvenile. Come back as a 3-year-old, ran very badly in return behind Exactly and Swelter, sort of 8th or 9th. And then she was plumb last in the French 1,000 guineas under William Buick. There, I think most people thought she was running as a pacemaker, but she was out the back for much of it, never did any pacemaking duties. So I'm not absolutely sure whether she's supposed to be making pacemaking duties here, or whether she's running in her own merits, and Aidan O'Brien thinks there's still more in this filly. It would be, to me, a massive surprise. Just at the back end of my mind is the fact that she did have that big surprise win in a decent race at Newmarket. But yeah, 1.5 stars. Incidentally, 1.5 stars was for the same for Dores Deja, the previous one. So don't fancy those two. There's just something about Merrily at the back of my mind. Interesting to read O'Brien's comments about why she's in the race this evening, on Saturday evening. Stall 4 Sand Gazelle. Powerful connections here. Jonathan de Gosden with the excellent Oisin Murphy riding. Frankel filly out of a Kingman mare. This one only debuted in December, where she went off at 20-1 at Kempton or Weather, but won going away, according to the Racing Post analysis. So that was quite something. Then she stepped straight up, a few months off. Then she stepped up to this sort of distance in Pretty Polly Newmarket and the Guineas weekend. Runs 4th behind Falakea, the very exciting Falakea, who may or may not be supplemented for the Coronation Stakes in a couple of hours after this recording is finished. Now it was an interesting run because she was held up in last and made up good ground to move up to second, and then faded late on, perhaps needing the sort of the run after 4 months off. Then last time she was favourite for a listed race at Newbury Fillies Trial Stakes, where she was slowly away and those therefore couldn't quite reel in Quilling Queen and Au Revoir, but was beaten less than a length by those two. Those two were, fancied outsiders. Well, or as well, hardly an outsider, but for the Oaks last Saturday. The problem is that collateral form looks pretty bad now because those two were out with a washing in the Oaks, so the form has not been stamped. That said, we don't know whether the combination of Epsom or the ground was wrong for one or both, but just something about this horse with her good draw. The Gosden's probably one of the most likely raced in the field. I think only Mandanaba's also had 3 runs. So I don't completely dismiss her. 3 stars out of 5 for Sand Gazelle. Next to her in stall 5, we have the complete outsider, Rosa Salvad or Rosa Salvad. Afraid pronunciation is beyond me for this one. 40-1, trained by Christopher Head, ridden by Stéphane Pasquier. This one's got a dirt pedigree through and through. Maximum Security, who won the Dubai World Cup before being stripped of it for drug offences. He's not much of a stallion. You can be covered by Maximum Security for $5,000 nowadays. So yeah, dirt pedigree through and through. 4 runs as a 2-year-old, achieved not much, except she did actually beat Vertical Blue on her debut. Vertical Blue was the horse that upset Zaragana in the Marcel Boussac Group 1 on Arc Day. Anyway, that just sort of stood out as the one good thing, as it were, she did at 2. Then she was thrashed by Zaragana on her final start as a 2-year-old, and well behind Zaragana on a seasonal return in the Prix de la Grotte. But she pulled hard and reduced what was a 7-length beating the previous season to 5 lengths. It was a slight improvement. Then recently she's run a conditions race over course and distance a month ago, started favourite. The only horse to run back from that has run absolutely dreadfully. I suspect the form amounts to nothing. Christopher Head said in Paris Turf, they come to the Racing Post this morning, she's got both speed and stamina, which is what you need for a Diane. I think she has a chance. On the sort of spectrum of pessimistic, optimistic trainers, Christopher Head would be kind of up there as on the optimistic side. So possibly not read too much into that. 40-1 is starting to get quite big, but I don't really give this one a chance. So it's another 1.5 stars. In stall 6, we have Zia Agnesi. Zia Agnesi, trained by, I've got to be honest, a trainer I know absolutely nothing about, Gianluca Biotolini, and ridden by Ronan Paris. Out of Romanized and a mare from Le Havre, so should have stamina there. She was quietly progressive as a 2-year-old. Beaten 50 lengths on debut, didn't look terribly promising. But then her next figures are 2-1-1, and the last of those wins was a 5-length winner in a conditions race on the all-weather at Chantilly. That was quite eye-catching. She comes back for a seasonal debut, runs at Saint Cloud over this sort of distance. She's last of 5, but only beaten 3 lengths. And one of those sort of French sprint and run races, go slow sprint races, which probably wouldn't have been in her favour. What is notable here is that she took a big step forward last time out. She ran something called the Group 3 Prix Cléopâtre, and she was 20-1, and she upset the highly fancied odds-on Tajlina from the Graffar stable, having made all. Now this is another test altogether, but I don't see this as beyond the grounds possibility. This one could run really well and even snatch a place. She's one of the more interesting outsiders for me. Quote from the trainer in Paris Turf this morning: she needs a good surface. She absolutely hates it heavy, and it won't run if it's very soft. I don't think there is much danger of that. It's been riding good. There was some rain overnight, but from what I can see, not that much fell. It's dry until race time. I would expect the ground to be on the fast side of good without being absolutely certain about that. So Zia Agnesi, interesting outsider. I'm giving her 3 stars. We're then into stall 7, and even if I can't find stall 7, yeah, here we go. She's perfect. This will be a name that anyone who follows French racing will know. Charlie Fellows, excellent young trainer, ridden by Kieran Schumacher, excellent jockey. You won't find me joining the bashing of Schumacher. I think he's top draw for all he might have made an error on Field of Gold in a certain race a month ago on the day, with the benefit of hindsight. So I don't think this one will fail for any help from the saddle. She's your 11-4 favourite, and her last two races have been pretty spectacular. She's been beaten a neck by Zaragana and beaten Zaragana by nose, only to have the second of those reversed, very famously, which I'm sure you're all aware of, in the French 1000 guineas, having been deemed to cause interference. So her last two runs, absolutely top draw on form. She's the right favourite. I want no part of her. I'm very suspect about this move up a full 2.5 furlongs to 10.5 furlongs. She's by Sioux Nation, who's a sprinter, and if you look through Sioux Nation's progeny, you won't find anything top draw over 10 furlongs, but you won't find many running over that distance at all. She is out of Galileo Mare, and I get why they're going for it. Charlie Fellows has described himself as confident but not certain that she'll get the trip. I would personally downgrade that remark to what I read into that is he's hopeful but not confident. Maybe that's me being cynical, but I think there's enough good reasons to doubt her ability to mix it with fillies who are absolutely bred for this distance, who were not far at all behind her, for example, in the French 1000 guineas, who we'll come to in a minute. So don't get me wrong, I like this filly. She's a super filly. I'd like to own her, but I wish they'd gone for the Coronation at Ascot, where she'd be a really, really interesting player. And yeah, she must have a chance here because she's got the classiest form, but she's only got an outstanding 11-4 favourite chance if she gets the distance, and then she's 11-4 favourite. But I think that's built into the price. Now, that's a personal view, and this time tomorrow afternoon or a bit later on Sunday, I could be left with egg on my face as she wins well. I don't see it happening, or at least I'm very suspicious. And I don't think it's an 11-4 shot. That's my issue, not the horse, just the price, given the step up in trip. So only 2 stars, which is nothing against She's Perfect. If this was run over a mile, it should be 4.5 stars probably, but it's not. Next turn, stall 8, American Gal, trained by Ed Walker, whose stable is on fire. Ridden by the excellent Tom Marquand. Again, this one won't fail for help from the saddle. Kamiko, filly out of a dam from a dam sire who I've ever heard of. Don't think there's any problem with her getting the distance. 2 runs as a 2-year-old. She won both. And the second of them, she had a penalty and she won by 5 lengths. So she was clearly very smart. And the fact that the form looks dreadful in terms of what's done behind doesn't really matter if you've shouldered a penalty and thrashed the field by 5 lengths. That's kind of less relevant. But yeah, so clearly useful juvenile. Comes third on a seasonal return. But there was some good 2 horses ahead of her. The second, Bermuda Longtail, which I think off the top of my head is Balding, could be Haggis. Sorry, not sure. One of the 2. Went on to be second to Contiki, who's probably about to be supplemented for the Coronation Stakes. Very, very exciting filly. That was a decent run. Then she goes over to France for the Prix de Lila, and she wins it by a neck and a short neck from the next 2. With Canora in this field, we'll come to later in 4th. Now that was a go slow sprint race, which doesn't tell us much about her ability to come here. What I don't really like about this is I don't think Connections are that confident. Sumion, who rode her in the Prix de Lila, got off and said this is not a Prix de Diane filly. Ed Walker's admitted as much. And I read something in his weekly column in the Weekend Racing Post to the effect that he went on about how if you've got a colt who runs a decent race and then runs a bad race, you've lost value. With a filly, it doesn't matter, because if you throw her into something she's not up to and she loses, you haven't done anything to damage her value. That's his sort of view, as it were, going into this race, which hardly screams confidence that he thinks she's good enough for that. So I'm against 1.5 stars. Great trainer, very good horse. I don't think she's good enough for this, though. I think she's going to be outclassed. And as I say, the fourth in her Prix de Lila, Canora, I think has got a very good chance of reversing the form, and she's an equal outsider, so I'm more keen on that one. Stall 9, Better Together. Better Together, again, more powerful connections here. Andre Fabre, Juddmonte bred, Colin Keane in the saddle, his first big race for Juddmonte in France since being appointed stable jockey. Oasis Dream, a filly out of a Dancily mare. Neither of those two were middle distance horses, but Oasis Dream, was like midday, superstar over 12 furlongs. Dancily, Sire of Harbinger, Flincher, all the rest of it. This one will stay 10.5 furlongs, no problem. And short career, 2 wins in 3 2-year-old starts, including a listed race. Comes back this season and wins the Prix Impudence, which is often a trial for the French Guineas. That form of that race doesn't look at all good now. It's a slight nagging doubt on that. But then when she goes to the French 1,000 Guineas, despite this race, the longer Diane being the main seasonal long-term plan, she's fifth, but she's only beaten 1.5 lengths, and she's clearly doing her best work at the finish. She's short of room at one point, and yeah, the Racing Post analysis says as much. Nearest finish are the last 2 words. So step up, shorter suit. This has been the plan for this filly pretty much since she was born. I get it, and just shy of 4 stars, maybe 3.54 stars. She's not my favourite for this race, but she's a big threat. Put it this way, at 6 to 1, I'd much rather bet her than She's Perfect at less than half the price. I would expect Better Together to finish ahead of She's Perfect, my own personal view. So why wouldn't I take the one at twice the price? I expect to finish ahead. Just 3 more to go. Stall 10, your second favourite, Mandanaba, 7 to 2. Again, Francois Graffard, top French trainer, with the retained Aga Khan jockey Michael Barcelona doing the steering. Now, this one you would have thought a pedigree wanted every bit of this trip, having dropped the French 1,000 Guineas when Connections said they're really not sure she's a miler, but it's a Group 1, we'll go for it. She's out of Gaeth and an Aga Khan filly Mandesha. And they started as a 2-year-old. She only had 1 start, and they started her over 9.5 furlongs. And when you start a horse over 9.5 furlongs, you clearly think, as a 2-year-old, you'll clearly think you're dealing with a middle distance filly. And she won that by 6 lengths. Put away for the winter. One on return, that race I referred to earlier. She was several lengths ahead of Gazora, who's improved since, though, and Flaming Stone. And then they go for it. They drop her to a mile for the French 1,000 Guineas, the Poule d'Essai des Pouliches, to give it its name in French. Bit of a mouthful. No wonder we say French 1,000 Guineas. Now, she's third in that, only beaten a length. So given what I said earlier, that her breeding and what Connections believe, that she was always destined for this longer distance rather than that on the face of it looks extremely promising. Why shouldn't she be among the favourites for this race? A slight problem I have with that is the way that race was run, where she was and how she finished. She was in the lead at one point, but faded towards the end, maybe did too much too early. But the real problem I have, compared to the others from that race, who I fancy more, like Better Together and Bedtime Story, we'll come to later, is she had an absolute peach of a draw. She was drawn to the inside, and there was a bit of crowding and scrimmaging in the mid-pack and outside, but she just had, the whole rail was open all the way for her. So ran in behind the pacemakers and took it up before fading. The fact that she was, barely a length ahead of Better Together, when she had a far better trip than that one, a much more favourable draw. I don't like her as the second favourite. I'm not as against as I am against She's Perfect. I get it with this filly, and perhaps with a different kind of ride here, rather than going for home after 7 furlongs. If she's played a bit later, maybe that'll play to her strengths a bit more. She can win this. I don't think she's a very good bet. She's not an appalling bet, but I've given her sort of 2.5, 3 stars out of 5. Lukewarmish on her. Prefer She's Perfect, but no, I wouldn't put my money on this one. Which leaves just 2. Canora, another outsider, another Aga Khan for Frosty Henri Graffard, and by the young Clément Lecoeur, very promising jockey. Now we're starting to get into badly drawn territory, but as I said, the field is not that wide, so this one will be dropped out, so I'm not too worried about that. This one is absolutely dyed in the wool stayer. Possibly this is not going to be long enough for her. So she's out of Candalia mare for the Aga Khan, who stayed forever, out of Dalakani, who gets stairs. Sire Persian King was second to Sozean in the Prix du Jockey Club. The following year, third to Sozean in the Arc. Really classy. So she debuts on over 7.5 furlongs. She's beaten. Then she stepped up to 9.5 furlongs and she wins. So that's her 2-year-old career. Over 9 furlongs, she's won both her starts this year. And they dropped her to behind American Gal in the Prix Lila. That's worth watching because she's got nowhere to go and she flies home. Her closing sectionals must have been the best in the race. I haven't seen the figures, but the visuals are pretty clear. So it looks like she's 4th to American Gal. I don't fancy it. 20-25 to 1. Why should I fancy this one? It's because coming back to 10.5. When I say back, she's never been up to 10.5 furlongs. So this is exactly what this filly wants, and I can see it being ridden out the bag. And as long as there's a decent pace, and of course that's no given, I can see it coming with a wet sail and picking up a whole load of these. So this would be the outsider I'm keenest on. Canora from 18. I'm going to give her a full 4 stars at that price. It was 25 to 1 yesterday, cut to 20 to 1, 18 to 1, I think best. Yeah, I think she's a really interesting outsider, so I have backed her with my own money. And finally, brings us to the outside stall, so not so well drawn, but the Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore, Ballydoyle #1 Bedtime Story. For those of us who follow us on X, and indeed our website, theanteposter.com, you'll know that we, a couple of days ago, we put this one up. Wrote an article about how she should be back for this race at 7 to 1 because she's going to come on leaps and bounds for her seasonal debut. Her seasonal debut was in the French 1,000 guineas, and she was drawn wide. She was dropped in the rear, and she comes with a wet sail, passing many horses late, only to finish 6th, and she is 4 lengths behind the winner. But the key is the seasonal debut. Almost every Aidan O'Brien top horse this season has made a quantum leap from its first to its second start. And I think this one will too. And you'll be fully aware that the O'Brien stable is absolutely on fire and have won the last 3 classics. French and English and Irish classics won, the Derby, the Oaks, the Irish Guineas. Stable on fire. The point about this one is this one was basically among the best of these as a 2-year-old. She did go sour at the end of last season, but at Royal Ascot last year, she was won by almost 10 lengths in a spectacular time. It was a jaw-dropping performance. I was there. And then she won another good race very easily in Ireland. Then she just scrambled home in Ireland. Then she was 5th in Ireland. And then, despite having a slight injury out of that race, she then ran her again on Art Day. I think she was well over the top by then. She was also not helping herself by pulling keenly. Pulling hard, racing too keenly. And that was a real problem. But on her seasonal debut in the French Guineas, crucially, she didn't. She was tractable. She settled. And as long as she settles again, And I should imagine they've worked out by now. And this stable usually gets that kind of thing under control. I would expect to run a massive race. Draw is she would have been 5 stars if she'd drawn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Drawn 12 of 12, Ryan Moore's going to have to work some magic, but you've got the world's best jockey on your side. So it's not a huge field. This is not 18 horses like the Prix de Jockey Club. So I would expect her to run a huge race. I'd be very disappointed if she didn't. So that is full guide to the field. Thanks for lasting this long. If you have, in summary, the front two of the market, she's perfect. Mandanaba, 11-4 and 7-2. I don't think they're the attractive bets here. I particularly dislike she's perfect as a bet at 11-4. And I'm prepared to go down with my colours nailed to that mast. Mandanaba is a possible threat, but at the back of my mind is the fact that she got by far the best of the run of the race and the draw in the French 1000 Guineas. So it's the horses behind her that I think are much more interesting. Better Together, 6-1, and Bedtime Story, I think, is still available at 6-1 now. Otherwise, yeah, the outsiders are like, I think Canora could come home at a decent price for a place. Agnesi is a wilder one that I'd like to see if it drifts a bit more. With those two outsiders, particularly if someone goes aggressively 4 places tonight, which is perfectly possible without a very short favourite, 12-horse field. Maybe I'll chuck in that each way as well. San Gazelle for the Gosdens, just a bit of an eye catcher as well, to see what she does. So anyway, thank you for watching this. That's your French Oaks Prix Diane guide. When James gets his ass back here from Uzbekistan or wherever he's gone, we will be returning to Royal Ascot Monday and probably come another night or two next week. So do watch our X or subscribe to this YouTube account, and then you'll see those as soon as they're released. Good luck if you're playing tomorrow. And until next time.